In life, we are bogged down by the failures, and when we fail, it seems that it is the end of the road. लेकिन कहते हैं ना कि जब भगवान देता है तो छप्पड़ पाड़ के देता है। ऐसी ही कुछ कहानी है विक्रम जोशी की, जो आज मेरे साथ हैं। He also had his instances of failures when he started preparing for UPSC, but he didn't give up. And once he started cracking exams, there is a long list. SBI Junior Associate exam इन्होंने क्रैक किया, IBPS क्लर्क क्रैक किया, कर्नाटका बैंक क्लर्क क्रैक किया, SSC CGL टैक्स असिस्टेंट क्रैक किया, SAQDC क्रैक किया, and the icing on the cake is that he cracked SEBI Grade A and NABARD Grade A in the first attempt. Yes, guys, you might be thinking कि ये NABARD Grade A का interview है, and I'm talking about that Vikram has already cleared SEBI Grade A, but that is right what I'm telling you. Vikram is already serving in SEBI as a SEBI Grade A officer, but now the result of NABARD has come and he has realized that he has cracked NABARD also. So both these exams in the first attempt. Vikram, first of all, congratulations. I know you might not be very much excited since you're already serving in SEBI. That might be your first preference also. But होता है ना, एक success पाकर कहीं ना कहीं लगता है कि वाह यार, मैं तो बहुत अच्छा हूँ. I have cracked both these exams. तो is that kind of feeling coming in now कि मैंने जो एग्जाम भी हाथ डाला, I cracked it?
Yes, अभी finally ऐसे लग रहा है कि flow में आ चुका हूँ. After so many years, I mean, it doesn't feel so bad right now कि इतने साल लग गए. चलो ठीक है. I mean, I'm in a good place now, and हो सकता है कि इसके आगे भी if I try for something more, I might succeed. वो confidence तो है, no doubt.
Exactly. And Vikram, आपने इतने सारे एग्जाम्स दिए, बहुत बार फेलियर्स भी देखे, एंड यू स्टार्टेड स्मॉल, कि छोटे छोटे एग्जाम पहले आपने उठाए, क्रैक किए जॉब सिक्योरिटी लिए, देन यू स्टार्टेड गोइंग फॉर द बिग एग्जाम्स. वाज दैट अ प्लान्ड स्ट्रेटजी कि बस तब पता ही नहीं था कि सेबी नबार्ड के लिए डायरेक्टली जाओ, या फिर वो एक प्लान्ड स्ट्रेटजी थी?
तो इट वाज अ मिक्स ऑफ बोथ. आई वुडंट से कि टोटली प्लान स्ट्रेटजी थी. तो जब 2018 में यूपीएससी मेंस क्लियर नहीं हुआ, तो आई डिसाइडेड दैट आई डोंट वांट टू वेस्ट एनी मोर ऑफ माय 20s फुल टाइम प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर यूपीएससी. तो certainly back of the mind में it was always there that I would like to continue preparation यूपीएससी का ही. But I thought कि I need a reorientation course of action में. So I decided to join a private company close to my house in Bangalore. I worked there as a HR sourcing specialist. So there I decided कि let us start small, because I didn't know of any other exams only. If not UPSC, then what? So I hardly कुछ bank exams के बारे में मालूम था, and few notifications that a friend or a relative used to send forward on WhatsApp or Telegram or something. So that is how I started preparation for bank exams. And bank exam में एक दो बार मैंने पहले PO का दिया हुआ था, and I was not able to clear prelims also. So I decided कि I would start small. I started with the clerical exams, and one by one I cleared quite a few of them. And since I mean, of course, I would say कि clerical exam में vacancies ज़्यादा होती है, तो it is very easy. I mean, not very easy, but relatively easy to clear. Mathematically, the competition will be less. So that was the state of mind that I was in when I was going to write the clerical exams, and वो clear होने लगे, and that gave me that confidence. And since I at that time age was on my side, I was hardly 24, 25 that time, and I had that experience of preparing for government exams. So I decided कि maybe this is I can take my time, but ultimately क्या करना है वो मालूम था ही. But regulatory bodies के बारे में I was not sure at that time. So a friend of mine had suggested RBI Grade B, and he had suggested EduTap courses. So in 2019 I gave my first RBI Grade B attempt, and I cleared the prelims, but I was not able to clear mains. And then thankfully by that time I had got the joining for SBI in Mumbai. So I come from Bangalore, but I deliberately filled a form from Maharashtra, because Maharashtra में vacancy ज़्यादा थी कर्नाटका से. So I was that scared at that time कि vacancy कम होंगी तो I might not clear. So I had filled a form from Maharashtra, and I joined there just 1 month before COVID in 2020. And there, after joining just a few weeks later, there was a national lockdown, and we were just sitting in our quarters in Navi Mumbai, and we didn't have to go to work. We were getting salary. We had a lot of time on our hands. So at that time, I decided कि I would prepare for SEBI also. And they were extending the notification last date. Yes. They extended by quite a few months. So I decided preparing for SEBI, and I looked at the overlapping aspects. पहले लगा कि it's commerce and accountancy and I come from engineering background, so I might not be able to do that. But then I thought कि it has overlaps with other exams like SSC CGL का जो पेपर 3 पेपर 4 होता है मेंस का, जो लोग लिस्ट 1 में आते हैं प्रीलिम्स में, so they have to give the commerce and accountancy and finance and economics के subjects. And also EPFO enforcement officer notification had released at that time. They also had commerce and accountancy as one of the subjects. So I decided that this might help me some of the other places even if I don't clear SEBI, because there were only 80 seats. And so with that state of mind I started preparing, and I couldn't clear it actually. So I went till the interview and I lost by 0.6 marks. So that was SEBI grade A.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
0.6 marks, and I was in touch with few of the people who are about to join RBI, and I knew that I have a chance because I know that there is this concept of waitlist organizations. But I didn't stop my preparation there. I was simultaneously preparing for other. I think screen is frozen. Now the screen is back.
Yeah.
Okay, I will continue now. So as I was saying, I was preparing for EPFO enforcement officer, and then I prepared for NABARD also. So NABARD sort of happened. I gave the exam because they had made it descriptive, the phase 2 50% descriptive, and I thought that coming from a UPSC background it might help me. And also in phase 1, my weak areas that I consider like logical reasoning and quant, so that was made only qualifying. मेरिट कट ऑफ सिर्फ बाकी 3 सब्जेक्ट्स का था, that is current affairs, GA, ESI, ARD. So I decided that I would prepare for NABARD, and then prelims, I hadn't studied much for prelims, just went through current affairs of a few months, and since I was already within the groove of preparing for civils or other exams, I had that knowledge of schemes and possibly what might be asked. So I had gone through the previous year question papers, and this is what I would like to emphasize, that previous year question papers are a huge treasure trove of information. So it gets an insight into the minds of the exam setter. So I went through the FCI AGM paper, I went through NABARD prelims and mains of the previous year, and thankfully because of that, despite less preparation for prelims, a few questions were repeated and I was able to make use of that and clear prelims. So after I got the prelims result, I decided ki okay, this is my chance, let me prepare for mains. Hardly 3-4 weeks were there, and I realized ki I don't have much to lose, because anyways I had not prepared much, I don't have that much stakes, so let me take this as an opportunity and just go for it. So I was made a part of the EduTap Vijay batch at that time, and I got access to concise material of especially of ESI and ARD. ARD was one subject I was scared of, so I just tried to mug up of agriculture and rural development, the static concepts. And anyways, ESI ka to background I already had because of civil services and other exams. So I gave the mains, and in mains, because of my experience in descriptive answer writing, and I feel I had a good typing speed also. I was able to exceed the word limit for most of the answers, other than that crossbreeding. I mean, I'm sure that most candidates had issues with that answer. But other than that, I was able to exceed the word limit in all the answers. And in descriptive English also, because of my experience in IBPS exams, descriptive English, I was able to be realistic. So I didn't look for writing good quality content this time. I just realized that it is 100% mechanized checking. So it's enough if we write basic English with decent grammar, syntax, spelling, punctuations. So that was the strategy I used. And because of that, despite scoring, I mean, I don't know my scores exactly, but I thought I didn't do well in the objective pattern of the 50 marks objective. But despite that, I managed to clear mains. And then just 1 week after the mains result, I got my offer letter from SEBI, which I was expecting for quite some time. And then I decided to go ahead with SEBI. I joined because interview uska thoda delay ho gaya tha because of the third wave Omicron and all that. And then I joined SEBI and I got NABARD interview date, and I just thought I would go and attend the interview. And of course, I had prepared also. I had prepared mock interviews from 2-3 sources. And also, I knew what might be asked. I had spoken to a few of the aspirants who had given the interview in the previous year. So I had a rough idea what can be asked. And thankfully, I was able to do well. And also the fact that I was already working in SEBI. So that sort of gave me a confidence while attending the interview. It was not a do or die thing for me, like it was for SEBI interview. So naturally, that gives a lot of confidence. So this is what I would suggest aspirants, that have something in hand when you are aiming for something better. That gives a lot of confidence, because ultimately it shouldn't be purely about a bread and butter thing. If let's say someone is preparing full time and someone wants to prepare for IAS, so IAS can be a thing of passion, of serving the country and bringing in social change and all that. But at the same time, it will be a thing of bread and butter, right? कि नौकरी कोई है नहीं हाथ में, जो अगर वो लगेगा तो ही I will be earning something. So it shouldn't be that way ideally.
Exactly.
Because that creates a lot of tension, that creates a lot of pressure when you have a lot of stakes in the outcome. So a thing about competitive exams is that you should reduce the stakes that you have from the exam. So that will be a very good way of managing pressure and anxiety.
Exactly. I think you told the whole of your strategy in just this 2-3 minutes in very brief. So we will try to delve into more details. आपकी एक बात मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगी विक्रम. What you told is that no passion and bread and butter. I remember one of my friend who had a passion to serve in military, and he had a very pathetic situation at his home. I mean, the financial situation. So everyone used to say him that no, don't join. You have very good other prospects also. He was an MBA from a very good premier college of India. But eventually he joined army. He also lost his life while serving the country. But again, so the point I'm trying to make is that the point you have made is very much relevant. Sometimes passion is one thing and bread and butter is another thing. But yes, sometimes passion will win, sometimes bread and butter will win. So that is up to the candidates what they need to choose. And as Vikram has said, it's a very important point. Confidence is the most important key to success. And you can gain confidence when you have something in your kitty. जब आपके लिए डू और डाई सिचुएशन होती है ना, आपका परफॉर्मेंस वैसे ही आधा अधूरा रह जाता है. So be sure, like Vikram, you can start small, but yes, you can always dream big and make it big. ठीक है, तो हमेशा सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि ये जॉब मेरे लिए नहीं है, ये मैं नहीं करूंगा, इसको तो मैं दूंगा ही नहीं. एटलीस्ट fill exams, give exams, you might get to practice, and if you clear, maybe you can think about joining. ठीक है, Vikram, now I'll get back to the interview. So इस entire journey में ऐसी कौन सी 3 चीजें हैं, 3 things which you think helped you most in cracking SEBI and NABARD in the first attempt? Because to crack SEBI and NABARD in the first attempt, it's not easy. It's not a fluke. So कोई आपको 3 चीजें या 3 learnings हो आपकी that you think is eventually are the key to success?
So I would say first was consistency. The fact that I was consistent throughout the past 6.5 years of my preparation, right from UPSC days. And I carry that quality even to this day. So that is first thing I would attribute to that only. And the second was knowing what to do and what not to do. That is experience. Experience, that something that came from writing so many. I think I wrote more than 40 different competitive exams in the past 6-7 years. And that experience is what counts. So because of that, I mean, ultimately when things start working out, it just happens. So with less effort, you suddenly start getting quite a lot of results. So just like this time, I mean, I had written IBPS PO mains also this time in January, and I hadn't prepared at all. I didn't know the paper pattern also, how many marks, how many questions. I just went and wrote, and I mean, I didn't attend the interview, but I cleared the mains by 14 to 17 marks above the cutoff. I think I was scoring around 94, 95. I saw my scorecard. So that brings me to my third point, and that would be the knowledge of your strengths and weaknesses. So for instance, in case of IBPS, I knew what would be asked in logical reasoning in quant, and I knew which areas I'm good at. So I would always look to do that the first. I would not get stuck in those questions which I'm bad at. So it's these 3 things to sum up. That is perseverance, experience, and knowledge of my strengths and weaknesses.
Very well put up, Vikram. And now when you when you prepare for regulatory bodies exam, Vikram, now you have prepared for all three, RBI, though you didn't make it, SEBI and NABARD, you made to both these regulatory bodies. Now, is it feasible and advisable to prepare for multiple regulatory bodies exam in 1 year, or would you suggest कि नहीं, एक पे ही focus करो and go for it? What is your suggestion?
So I would suggest that at least in the first, in case let us say the person is a fresh aspirant and he's new to regulatory body exams, like I was in 2019. So at that time I'd only prepared for RBI because I thought that would be the most doable syllabus. I was not really aware of SEBI much. And NABARD, so because of that agriculture part, I told you, I was quite skeptical about giving agriculture. So I only prepared for RBI, and in that I got a hang of the whole exam process conducted by IBPS and that hybrid pattern in which there is MCQ and there is descriptive English also, in which you have to type in the system. So that gave me a hang. Also, the fact that I was working at that time sort of constrained my effort, how much hours I can put in a day. But then later, during the year 2020-21, I was able to prepare for multiple exams at the same time. And that is because I had that confidence कि पहले finance and management तो पढ़ लिया मैंने. So that will be there in SEBI also. So despite the syllabus changing, 2 out of 6 syllabus subjects I've already done thoroughly. So that was the confidence. And also in NABARD, economic and social issues, I had prepared for RBI, I had prepared for UPSC. So I feel that someone, if the person is coming from a government exam ka background like me, so it can be possible to prepare. But there are other factors also, like age. I mean, at what point do you stand when it comes to age? So number of attempts left and whether you're working or not. So these factors are also there. So to put it simply, I would say that in the first year, it's better to pick one exam and target it, especially if you're not a full-time aspirant. But after that, when you get the hang of it, it's quite possible to prepare for multiple exams at the same time.
And how did you manage time, man? You maybe in SEBI you said the lockdown helped because you prepared in the 2020-21 cycle when there was a lockdown. But still, I mean, how did you manage time? Even for NABARD, right? You were working at that time. Because we keep receiving calls from people who are working, and they're like, no, they're in a pathetic situation, as what I understand from them. Sir, नहीं हो रहा है. सुबह 9 बजे जाते हैं, 7 बजे आते हैं, आके थक जाते हैं. So how did you manage time? उसका कोई है नुस्खा? The solution?
So I would say that since I was in a government job, so that helped. I mean, government job में that too I was in a clerical position, clerical post था वो. तो उससे उतना वर्क प्रेशर नहीं था. So अभी अगर सभी में आने के बाद या let's say अगर NABARD में, if it was NABARD also, तो since it will be an officer job, the work pressure will be much more, and there you will be, I mean, there will be few people working under you also. So assistants or clerical level officer, clerical level employees working under you. So that becomes more difficult. But the fact that I was in a clerical job and I was, I mean, it was a home posting for me. I was in Bangalore. And I had chosen house, that is accommodation, which was quite close to the office. It was just a 10 minutes drive for me. So less than 20-25 minutes, I was able to go to and from work. And in office also, I was in the admin department. So it was not a customer facing job, because of which I was able to plan my work. I mean, since you're not answerable to customers, in that case, you can plan your work accordingly. मतलब इतने घंटे काम करके ऑफिस में बचा हुआ टाइम थोड़ा यूज करना. तो I was able to do that thing. And also when there was COVID lockdown, let's say in the second wave, so at that time it was alternate day work for us. So we had to go, I mean, one day, other day they said work from home, but actually work from home, it was as good as a holiday only, because I mean, it was ESIC, and ESIC में it is still a very typical Sarkari culture that everything has to be done on files. There is absolutely no level of digitization. So जब घर पे थे तो कोई काम होता नहीं था. It was not work from home. It was as good as a holiday. So that also helped me. So I would say that certainly it's no doubt that if the person is serving in a government organization, it's much more easier to prepare for other exams compared to working in the private sector, especially IT. And also if it's a clerical job, it's more easy to prepare because it gives that extra surplus time to prepare for higher exams compared to level positions. And also in government बहुत सारे छुट्टियां मिलते हैं. So we have more, I mean, other than the public holidays and other than Saturday, Sundays, we get almost 40-45 holidays every year. उतने leaves होते हैं हमारे पास. So we can take leaves during exam. Of course, you need to have a good rapport with your reporting manager and all that. That's always there. But if that is there, then you are pretty much sorted. तो exam के time पे तैयारी के लिए time मिलता है. You get leaves. And also the fact that you won't be 100% dependent upon the outcome. कुछ तो है मेरे पास, तो I won't be jobless on the next day, or I won't have to just go back to my preparation full time. ऐसा नहीं होता है. So that helps to take the mind away from a failure. So when जैसे कि in SEBI, when I didn't clear the final cutoff, and I after a few weeks when they released the scores and everything, I realized that I missed it by 0.6 marks. It was very hurtful. But I went to office and काम किया, and कहीं ना कहीं वो थोड़ा it helps to take the mind away from that.
वैसे ये double edged sword है. Sometimes being already in a job is good in terms of giving you little leeway in terms of handling the pressure. But कई बार लोग इसको उल्टा ले जाते हैं, वो बिल्कुल ही नहीं पढ़ते हैं कि ठीक है ये तो है बाद में पढ़ लेंगे. So I would request कि थोड़ा उसको seriously तो लेना पड़ेगा, but yes, it will give you confidence and it will reduce your pressure. So that's an advantage to you, but make that advantage work for you, not against you. तो ठीक है विक्रम, अब नबार्ड की थोड़ी तैयारी पे आ जाते हैं. तो ये वर्किंग इन सेबी, आपका सेबी का हमने ऑलरेडी एक इंटरव्यू लिया है. सो गाइस, इफ यू वांट टू हियर विक्रम्स स्ट्रैटेजी फॉर सेबी, यू कैन लिसन टू दैट इंटरव्यू. ठीक है, नबार्ड की बात करते हैं. तो विक्रम इज नॉट गोइंग टू ज्वाइन नबार्ड. तो अगर आप वेट लिस्ट में हैं तो एक सीट तो खाली हो ही गई है, शायद क्या पक्का ही. तो अगर आपका पहला वेट लिस्ट है, सो यू आर श्योर टू गेट अ कॉल. ठीक है, बाकी मुझे नहीं पता है सेकंड थर्ड का क्या होगा. सो दैट्स अ गुड न्यूज फॉर द पर्सन हु इज ऑन द टॉप ऑफ द वेट लिस्ट. विक्रम, सबसे पहले वैसे मेरा मन तो कर रहा है मैं आपसे सेबी के बारे में पूछूं, सेबी में कैसा चल रहा है आपका. बट एनीवेज, द इंटरव्यू इज ऑन नबार्ड. क्वांट रीजनिंग इंग्लिश एंड decision making जो, और I think computer, these were non-merit or qualifying sections. इसकी आपकी कितनी तैयारी की? कंप्यूटर की तो आपकी होगी, you have cleared so many banking exams. Quant reasoning English भी did you prepare specifically for NABARD, or was it just like कि ठीक है मुझे आता है, I'll give the exam?
नहीं, थोड़ा तो तैयारी करा था मैंने, because I know that I am quite weak at those areas. तो I decided कि I would just brush up. मतलब मेरे जो स्ट्रॉन्ग एरियाज थे उसी को ब्रश अप करूंगा. वीक एरियाज के लिए एनीवेज आई डिडंट हैव मच टाइम, तो आई जस्ट थॉट आई विल लीव दोज एस्पेक्ट्स व्हिचएवर आई एम गुड एट. जैसे कि इन लॉजिकल रीजनिंग इट इज वेरी सिंपल स्टफ लाइक सिलोजिज्म. मतलब वो जो वेन डायग्राम का होता है, दैट थिंग, आई मीन आई एम नॉट इवन श्योर इफ आई रिमेंबर इट राइट, बट आई थिंक इट्स सिलोजिज्म ओनली. एंड वो कोडेड इनइक्वालिटीज एंड वो डायरेक्शंस का, तो ऑल दीज आर थिंग्स दैट आर क्वाइट डूएबल. And in case of it's quant data interpretation, अगर थोड़ा easy वाला पूछा है और 1 or 2 parameters का ही they have asked, then it is quite doable. Or let us say simple arithmetic like boards and streams, profit and loss, and time, distance, speed, time and work. These are quite doable. So I just decided to brush up those areas. तो कुछ मैंने I found free resources online from which I had solved. Maybe 100-150 MCQs बनाए होंगे मैंने for only for those subjects. And for decision making, what I felt was कि preparing management subject for RBI or SEBI में भी है management one of the subjects, so that helped a lot because many of the things जो उसमें पूछे थे situational responses, मतलब जैसे आप certain situation में कैसे respond करोगे and what is that thing called, तो वो सब management में ही था वो in the management syllabus given by IBPS only. I mean by IBPS in RBI and SEBI exams, management syllabus में. So I would certainly suggest candidates कि अगर आप management की तैयारी करोगे तो your decision making का part तो is sorted. And anyways the cutoff will be very less. There were 20 questions, I think 10 questions
on decision making.
And उस पे I think the cutoff was 2 or 3 marks. So that's all. So it was quite doable, I feel. I don't think it was out of the box.
Yeah, Vikram. So I think you got my question, right? How did EduTap help you in your entire journey of cleared CB and NABARD, and you have been a student, not only in terms of courses, but overall with respect to touch points, with respect to your experience with EduTap at various touch points?
So I feel कि EduTap का strong point when it comes to the static syllabus of these exams is that it is quite exhaustive and at the same time it is concise. मतलब आप relate कर सकते हो in the sense कि you can link one chapter with the other and you can somewhat find commonalities between different subjects. जैसे कि finance में and accountancy में quite a lot of things are common. So you have covered that well in the sense कि certain chapters are repeated in both. So somewhere it helps relate that. And also the fact that your current affairs modules are very, very vast. So of course now these days the kind of current affairs that are being asked in banking exams, it is very difficult to make head or tail of, I mean, or try to relate with those questions. फिर भी having one source helps. There's no doubt in that. And usually candidates tend to go for, let's say, more than one source. Current affairs के लिए they'll be like, let us study from two sources. But when it comes to EduTap, the module will be एक month का almost 200-250 pages का होगा. Right? So if you study that one source, it is more than enough. So this is what I feel, the quality of the content. It's as simple as that.
And the comprehensiveness.
Yes, comprehensive and concise. And for mock interviews, though, the quality of the panelists that you have for the mock interviews. So feedback be to the point hoga. And in certain cases I've seen in other institutes, the feedback becomes very personal. It becomes a comment on your personality कि आप ऐसे हो आप वैसे हो. But in case of EduTap, it's not like that, and that's how it should be, right? Because just कि आप you present this way in front of the panelist, or I mean actual interview में, so you present the answer in this way, or you speak in this way, इतना बोलेंगे, so it won't get too personal, so that healthy respect and that distance will be there. And at the same time, it will be good enough for you to brush up your weak areas and give a good presentation in front of the interviewer.
तो विक्रम, आपकी एंटायर प्रिपरेशन EduTap से ही थी? मतलब सेबी के लिए, नबार्ड के लिए आपने कुछ ARD या अकाउंट्स वगैरह की कुछ बुक्स यूज की थी?
बिल्कुल भी नहीं. I didn't have the time to refer to the subject books that were mentioned in the notification, and I also don't come from that background, agriculture or accounts commerce background. So I just relied upon the notes of EduTap and maybe a few free content available on the internet, just a Telegram groups में or somewhere. But as far as the static notes are concerned, it was only EduTap, nothing else.
तो आपको वो कॉन्फिडेंस आ गया था पढ़ के? मतलब now you have cleared, obviously you would say yes sir, this is the best, or this is I can trust. But when you were reading, when you were going through that, somebody is teaching you for your next jump in the career. Did you get that confidence at that time कि नहीं यार ये काफी है? Obviously you would have heard something in the market कि अच्छा है, but still when you yourself read, were you getting that confidence कि यार मैं इससे एग्जाम क्लियर कर सकता हूँ? Were you getting that confidence?
हाँ, so at that time I wasn't thinking a lot about whether I'm understanding the subject or not. मुझे बस वो I mean earlier I was like that when it comes to UPSC or other exams. पहले ये टेंडेंसी थी कि you have to be an expert in that subject. But when I mean with experience you learn a lot of things, right? So at that time I became quite realistic कि you don't have to master the subject. It's just about those few chapters or those few areas that are mentioned in the notification. तो मैं just वो syllabus side में रख के I used to read the content and मुझे लगता कि हाँ this is quite enough. And in case I didn't understand something, I would just type in that comment section in that paid courses. You have that comments, right? So there you respond to that. Or let us say I just Google that term on YouTube or Google, I find something and कहीं ना कहीं वो doubts थोड़े clear हो जाते हैं. So that's all that I was thinking. I wasn't thinking if I'm getting very good at that subject. It is just about clearing that exam and understanding what is the scope of the content that they're asking. तो उतना समझ गया तो बस है. I wasn't overthinking. And I felt that was an advantage.
That approach actually helps. I've seen students struggling too much with the accounts or economics because they try to go too much into deep, and they start reading books like Prasanna Chandra for finance or maybe Ramesh Singh for economics. I don't know. I mean, the relevance for cracking these exams I really doubt, but though these are really good books. Anyways, so Now I'll come to the main portion, the strategy for ESI, ARD, and current affairs, because these are the three pillars of your NABARD prep. Everything else is qualifying. This is something which will make you qualify phase 1 and make you qualify phase 2 also. ठीक है, descriptive है, but वो इसी से निकल के आएगी. There are some other skills for descriptive, but as in terms of knowledge, these are the three areas. तो economics तो what I understand, since आपने UPSC में पढ़ी थी, आपका काफी hold था, and maybe for current affairs आपने पढ़ा होगा, but static portion में how much time did you devote to economics?
So economics, I felt that the content that they had asked in the syllabus that they had mentioned in the notification was quite different from what a UPSC aspirant reads. Because UPSC में Indian economy होती है. It's not exactly economics if you look at it per se. So it is more about the applied part of things. जैसे कि Indian banking sector हुआ, monetary policy, fiscal policy, ये सब. And वो जो public finance होता है, different kinds of deficits वो सब. But in economy, that is not the case. In economy, it's about concepts, it's about economists, it's about those various curves and graphs and so many different things. So I felt that it was not exactly a cakewalk, despite coming from that UPSC background. I feel कि जो एक economics के academic background से आता है, so that person might have a very good chance of understanding this. But UPSC background वालों के लिए it's not a cakewalk. So I had to devote substantial time, at least like 2-3 weeks तो गए थे, where I was studying economics, just devote करके उतना पढ़ा था मैंने from the EduTap material. So and उसके बाद I had to revise it multiple times because it was I didn't find it very easy, to be honest, economics.
And it's very comprehensive actually. In our course also it's very comprehensive. Again, we try to make sure कि ठीक है यार, अगर broader understanding होगी इतना पढ़ के तो आप कोई भी question कर लेंगे. तो आपने कितनी बार revise किया? I remember you sometime back telling me while we were discussing before this interview that you revised for SEBI 11-12 times, right?
Yes, I did.
And what about NABARD specifically? How many times did you revise?
NABARD, I would say probably 2-3 times only.
Okay. So
yeah, I mean my NABARD journey was totally different compared to SEBI.
Yeah,
I wouldn't compare the two.
Yeah,
NABARD made the advantage was that the syllabus was very familiar, other than the agriculture part, and that too they don't ask much from agriculture, to be honest.
Exactly.
So other than that, it was very familiar with me, and I could manage with less.
तो ARD में now first question is के ठीक है, you are also skeptical कि मैं ARD नहीं कर पाऊंगा, that's why it might be tough for you to crack NABARD, पर आपने किया. So first of all, आपका इस question को लेकर क्या view है that if a person is from non-agriculture background, how difficult or easy it is for him or her to clear NABARD?
I would say that it's not difficult. Certainly not, because this time the people that I spoke to in the mains, the ones I met during the mains exam and even during interview, so more than 80% of them are from non-agricultural background. In fact, ज़्यादातर इस बार UPSC aspirants ही देखने को मिले हैं, because the syllabus उसमें descriptive उन्होंने introduce किया है. So that certainly gives an edge to UPSC aspirants. And they are mostly people with engineering background only. They are not from agriculture background, and actually agriculture, I mean coming from personal experience also, that is one subject which देख के डर जाते हैं लोग. Even that was the same state of mind for me also when I used to look at NABARD notifications, and also a few of the questions from agriculture जो कहीं we used to read that, or in the previous year questions, but if you look at that, the percentage of those questions will be very less. Agriculture, pure agriculture के they would let's say out of 100 they might ask 5 or 10, that's all. And this time though in prelims they were also quite rudimentary questions. जैसे कि they had asked this one question कि which is a national tree of India, and they had given 5 options, and पता चल रहा था कि it is banyan tree only, not any other tree. At least if they had given coconut tree as one of the other options, I might have got confused कि coconut होगा कि banyan होगा, but it was banyan. The coconut tree option was not there at all. So it's not just the question that is easy, but options भी कहीं ना कहीं ऐसे spread out होते हैं, close ये नहीं होते when it comes to those only agriculture questions.
तो आपने ARD के लिए कितनी preparation की?
I had prepared. I mean, not for prelims much, but for mains I had prepared. I had read the I mean EduTap module, विजय बैच का जो module था, वो 2-3 बार पढ़ा था मैंने, and I didn't get a lot of time to even mug up those, because my actual preparation for mains started after prelims result. So I just thought ki okay, let me just read as much as possible, mug up as much as possible, and exam में जो written होगा वो देखा जाएगा. So that was the approach I followed, because even aspirants otherwise also used to tell me कि डरो मत उतना agriculture से, because they will not ask much questions. And this time also in that objective ka part, they had not asked, I mean, hardly 2 or 3 questions maybe there out of total 30 questions.
From the static session,
From
there
static.
were very less questions.
Yes, even lesser than prelims actually.
Yes.
And
earlier in prelims and mains, there used to be at least like out of 40, there used to be 17, 18 static questions. But this year they reduced the percentage drastically.
Yes. So what I feel is that whenever any exam pattern is changed compared to previous years, so थोड़ा मतलब at least first batch में वो change होने के बाद at least in the first batch वो कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा easy रखते हैं वो लोग. So that is why SEBI, I cleared SEBI after the exam pattern was changed. And कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा easy था if you compare it with this year's mains exam. In NABARD also, it's possible that in 2022 it might be slightly more difficult compared to 2021.
Change is good. Change is good. ठीक है. अब आप मुझे एक और चीज बताइए विक्रम. Now you had experienced 2 type of scenarios. One is you prepared for SEBI like anything, and you made it to the finalist, and that also, I mean, just by getting your foot in the door, being in the wait list. And then you prepared very less for NABARD, but there also you made it to the finalist very easily. So now, I mean, when you see back, what is your perspective? How will you guide someone? कि मेहनत करो या ना करो, या you will say that ठीक है कि मेरा NABARD में कम मेहनत से हो गया, but it was only due to my hard work in other areas that helped me got. What is your view?
I would certainly say that, but I wouldn't just say that the person should just slog and slog for multiple hours a day. ऐसा भी नहीं होता कि you have to keep doing that, because smart work also matters. So what I would say is that just try to understand the gist of that exam. What are the distinguishing factors in that separate SEBI exam from NABARD, the syllabus or the scope of the various stages. जैसे कि descriptive English तो same है, but paper 1 will be different, right? So I would say कि उस exam के gist को समझो, and don't stop working hard, but also work smart also. मतलब go through toppers talks or speak to other people, what other people are doing, and also maintain some sort of a feedback loop between your preparation also. जैसे कि if you are solving mock tests one after the other and you're not able to do something right, so what I would suggest is कि वो feedback loop होना चाहिए कि these are my strong areas, these are my weak areas that I need to work upon. So doing the same thing again and again, जैसे कि वो that famous quote devoted to Albert Einstein, कि stupidity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. So that is what I would suggest, कि maybe this time I cleared NABARD with very less preparation, but that doesn't mean कि next time मेरा हो जाए if I do the same thing, or that doesn't mean कि other aspirants might have the same journey as me. Of course luck also matters. This is something I have realized कि these exams में at least prelims में शायद नहीं होता होगा, but mains में interview में luck matters, and as जैसे जैसे subjectivity आता है, जैसे कि descriptive English or descriptive answer writing or interview, so luck also matters a lot. There is very less difference between the people who have cleared mains but not interview and the people who have cleared the mains and interview. इनमें बहुत ज़्यादा difference होता नहीं है.
Exactly.
It's just about that few marks का difference, और interview में कैसा perform किया होगा, how those 10-15 minutes have been in the interview for them. So all these things matter. So I would say that don't stop working hard, but don't just keep slogging. Try to diversify also, and try to get different perspective on the exam is what I would say.
Well, very well said. I am sure you would have got some really good marks in the interview because you're very clear with your thoughts. Now coming to the current affairs, Vikram. Current affairs again is a very vast area. Schemes hai, reports hai, then ESI, finance की भी बहुत सारी news आती है. So how did you prepare? Any specific magazine, any specific duration of current affairs before the exam? What was your take on this?
So I had followed current affairs of last around 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. So earlier than that, I didn't go because I thought that the cost benefit बहुत ज़्यादा skewed हो जाता है. It's not that worthwhile. Of course, they had asked 2-3 questions. एक question तो था some YH Maligam committee that was formed in 2011 and that was not really in the news. वो कुछ I think it was related to micro insurance or something.
Yes.
So they had asked that question and it's worthwhile. It's worthless to prepare so back in time. So ऐसे questions बहुत कम होते हैं and it's okay if you don't get that right. If you just study the last 6 months or whatever, let's say 8 months or 1 year also, if you study that much well, then I feel it's good enough. It's not necessary that you need to get each and every question right, because ultimately it's about relative performance, not absolute performance, right? So that is one aspect that I would like to suggest. And if it is a comprehensive source, like just say EduTap, it is more than 200 pages per month. It's comprehensive source, then एक source ही रखो, or else you can keep let's say more than one source, 2 sources. जैसे I had done for RBI Grade B 2019, I had kept 2 different sources at that time. And for mains, at least when it came to NABARD Grade B, Grade A mains, what I had seen was they had asked very in-depth questions on very popular schemes. Basically, they had asked about the Ayushman Bharat health insurance scheme. They had asked very questions on that. So usually what we feel is that we should read each and every scheme. But this time what they did in NABARD mains was कि Ayushman Bharat पे उन्होंने 5 question पूछे थे. No, wait, was it 5?
Any business, like
but they had asked in very, I don't remember very in depth,
but they were in depth.
हाँ, वो in depth थे. I mean, I don't remember कि कितने थे, 4 या 5 थे, but बहुत in depth थे. And even I was not sure about which may be the answer. So what I would suggest कि there are a couple of websites, a couple of sources that can be referred to, because in no current affairs module will you see that schemes are given in such depth. So you can either refer to Vikaspedia.
Vikram, I think we have lost you. So Vikram was mentioning something about Vikaspedia. We will continue from there only. Yeah, Vikram. So I think we lost the connection. Yeah. So you were telling something about Vikaspedia, Vikram, that Vikaspedia is a very important source. And I agree with you. I think even in our internal sources from where we compile our schemes, Vikaspedia is one of the most important sources.
So I was just mentioning that Vikaspedia and government websites and also maybe Yojana magazine, जैसे कि flagship schemes पे एक Yojana edition devoted होती है, जैसे कि अभी that Jal Jeevan Mission was there. तो उस पे ही एक अलग edition आई थी. So that gives very good clarity upon the scheme, and even those areas which may not be covered in current affairs modules will be there in the magazine. Just it's enough to skim through and try to make notes, concise notes on that.
Did you make your own notes while preparation?
Yeah, for Yojana magazines, I always used to make my notes. I never relied upon the notes of any coaching institute for that sake. But बाकी सबके लिए तो scheme के लिए तो I went with the content available only, because it's already given in a decent manner, and I didn't feel that it's worth my time to again do the same exercise again.
It would be very, a comprehensive exercise which will consume a lot of your time, rather than you can use that for revision. आपने पहले रिवीजन के बारे में बताया था, तो रिवीजन की क्या इंपॉर्टेंस है आपके अकॉर्डिंगली पूरी प्रिपरेशन में? कितना टाइम हमें रिवीजन के लिए रखना चाहिए और कितनी बार रिवाइज करना चाहिए? Though I know there is no standard answer for it, but what is your take on this?
So I feel that जितना रिवाइज करना चाहिए is inversely proportional to our knowledge of the subject. जैसे कि in case of SEBI, it was I mean, I was totally new to the commerce related subject, so I revised more than 10 times, and I feel that it was necessary for me. But in case of NABARD, it was hardly 2 or 3 times, because I knew कि certain areas से पूछे जा सकते हैं, and I knew that other areas में, I mean, in those areas I am good, I have a good knowledge base. So it's inversely proportional to how good you are in that subject. And also I feel that revision is very important, especially if you are new to the subject. What I would suggest is कि first time don't make any notes, just go through that PDF or that content and try to understand. And if you are not able to grasp it, then go out of your way to understand that concept, like videos देखना हो या कहीं reference देखना हो Google पे या something. And once you understand that, तो try कि within 1 or 2 days you are revising that chapter.
1 or 2 days.
This is the standard rule that, I mean, as you said, there is no standard reply to this, but I would say that when the subject is totally new, it's necessary to revise within 1 or 2 days of reading it for the first time. Or else what happens is that the next time you feel like कि पहले पूरा एक वो subject खत्म कर दूंगा. It might take 1 or 2 weeks to finish that, and it's a new subject. So after that, when you start revision after 2 weeks, so the first chapter feels like a totally new chapter. समझ नहीं आता कि मैंने पढ़ा है कि नहीं पढ़ा है. So this is the importance of revision that I would attribute.
Right. Abhishek, I think we are a little less on time, so I'll ask you some quick questions and you can just answer them very quickly because I want to cover your interview experience also later. Descriptive writing, is it okay to write less words? Because many people, due to time limit, I think they were not able to meet that word limit, though there was no word limit in NABARD, but people were assuming the word limit of RBI. Word limit का क्या role है? Quickly.
So I would say that word limit is an indicator. It's an indicator कि इतने marks के लिए आपको लगभग इतना लिखना पड़ेगा. So for instance, when it was that 15 marker, so I think they had mentioned specifically actually कि 600 words लिखना है उसके लिए. In NABARD, so they had mentioned that कि 600 words, and for 10 markers it is 400 words. So it's an indicator. It doesn't mean that quantity उतना लिखना ही है. There are people who I spoke to who have written hardly 450 words for a 600 word answer, and they have made it to the final list also. But in my case, I felt that, I mean, मेरा typing speed अच्छा है, because I was in a clerical role in my previous office, and it was just all about typing. So that speed was good, and that coordination was good. कि that flow of thoughts जो आती है. Some people who are used to writing in pen and paper mode, उनको वो थोड़ी difficulty होती है. But in my case, that was not the problem. And also the quality of the content. So both are important, quality and quantity. But I would certainly say that quality is more important than quantity if I have to pick one. So even if 450 words में for 600 words, you're able to write with decent quality, it is quite enough.
And as per you, what is the overall importance of good content versus a clean sanity, things like no punctuation mistakes, no spelling mistakes, no grammar mistakes? How much weightage will you give to both content versus sanity?
I would say that descriptive English hoga to content doesn't matter at all. This is what I have understood. It's only that look, it should be a clean content in the sense कि grammar mistakes नहीं है, punctuation नहीं है, spelling सही है, and all that. But if it is the other thing, that is descriptive answer writing in RBI and in NABARD, I feel that content certainly matters more. So it will be just like UPSC mains में जैसे होता है. So थोड़े बहुत spelling mistakes भी ठीक है, punctuations are also fine, because ultimately a human being checks that, not a machine, like it is done for the descriptive English.
How do you know that in descriptive English it's a machine which is checking that? They have never made it official, right?
So in IBPS PO this time, if you see the notification, it clearly mentions.
There they are mentioned, but not for NABARD. So we are assuming here, but I agree with you that that might be the case, because that is also what I have understood from my experience, but I have never made it official because it's a very risky path till the time NABARD makes it official. But I think as a valid point, देखिए जो आपका English का paper है, that's mainly for checking your English. हालांकि ऐसे में भी reasoning check होनी चाहिए कि आप किस level की reasoning दे रहे हैं. But your descriptive paper for ARD and ESI is typically to check your reasoning, your logics. So there your content will definitely matter. ठीक है. So आपने कितने mock tests वगैरह दिए थे विक्रम?
Mock tests I had not given much. I mean, as I said, it was the confidence of the changed pattern that was at the root of me giving the NABARD exam. So I hardly given 3 or 4 mock tests, not more than that.
Even for mains.
Yeah, even for mains also.
So interview सबसे पहले तो I think it's very much applaudable कि आप SEBI में service join करने के बाद भी you went for NABARD interview to have that experience. Very few people now take out that time and just to get an experience. And anyways उससे कुछ नुकसान नहीं हुआ है. Waitlist वाले को अपनी सीट मिल ही जाएगी कि आपने तो छोड़ी नहीं. तो इंटरव्यू में आपको obviously you went with too much confidence because आपके पास SEBI था और आपने वही ज्वाइन करना था. But still, how was your interview experience? Overall, was the panel cordial there?
Very much, certainly. I mean, even compared to my SEBI interview also, NABARD was quite cordial and they gave enough time to finish the answer. So they didn't cut off in the between. And अगर आप एक मतलब 2-3 questions ऐसे continuous पूछते हैं and expect you to answer that. So sometimes what happens is कि they cut you off after one answer, but that didn't happen in NABARD. They were quite patient and they were ready to listen to even the descriptive answer that you were giving. And it was quite long also. जैसे कि in my SEBI interview was quite short, hardly 8 to 10 minutes. NABARD पूरे 20 मिनट तक गया था interview. And for that whole 20 minutes, they were quite patient and cordial.
So what kind of questions were asked? I mean, obviously there would be some HR questions, some current affairs question, I suppose, and maybe something related to agriculture, economy, something of that kind. Maybe you can explain.
Yeah. So the first question they asked is कि after joining SEBI, why NABARD? And I gave a standard answer to that कि serving the society connected to the grassroots and वो सब. I mean, I didn't really have anything else to say other than that. So I just gave that safe answer only. And उसके बाद they started जैसे कि what's NABARD doing for sustainable development goals? What is NABARD doing for climate change? And they specifically asked about NRLM scheme, National Rural Livelihoods Mission. So it is seen by quite a lot of the candidates who go for interview that they pick one scheme and grill you in depth on it. And this will be a flagship scheme only. Popular ones like Mahatma Gandhi Narega scheme, या DAY NRLM या स्वच्छ भारत या आवास योजना और आयुष्मान भारत ऐसे flagship schemes ही होंगे, but they will grill you in depth on that. So that's what they did in my case also. काफी in depth तक गया था वो. And then they asked me about farm laws. कि farm laws मतलब ऐसा what do you know about the farm laws and since they didn't work out and what is the way forward. तो बहुत candidates को यही पूछा गया था. And also they will certainly ask about the agriculture situation in your home state and possibly from your home district also. So it is very important to know. So this is, I mean, I'm pretty sure that all people who are giving the interview of NABARD, they would have done that. कि वो जो annual report होती है NABARD की, उसमें they'll skim through that, and also that district development manager की वो जो एक report होती है, in which
state wise,
yeah, state district wise होता है actually, not just state wise, but district wise it will be there, the DDM's report. So उस report को you should know that, especially the brief aspects like population, demography, and वहाँ पे how much of the what % of the populations depend on agriculture, which are the major crops, what are the issues faced in agriculture. तो ये सारी चीजें मालूम होना बहुत जरूरी है. And actually NABARD interview is not difficult to crack is what I would tell. And they are mostly looking for the test of your personality because एक तो general questions पूछे जाते हैं सबसे, and दूसरा है कि panel भी cordial है, they don't put you under a lot of stress. So it's mostly a test of your personality because everything else has been done during mains only, knowledge and everything else.
तो इंटरव्यू में मतलब was there any situation where they cross questioned you or maybe they asked you some question for which you did not have an answer?
Yeah, they did. For instance, NRLM में बहुत, as I said, कि बहुत in depth गए. They asked me which are the different sub schemes under NRLM. So I was able to answer only one. तो मैंने बोला उन्हें कि after that they asked me कि anything else and I said कि I had read sir but I'm not able to recollect. This is the only point I'm able to recollect. So after I mentioned that skill development का part, so I mentioned root SETI, that RACTI or root SETI, so rural development and self-employment in training institutions. So that comes from my home state only, that concept. मतलब कर्नाटका का ही concept है वो. The root SETI in Canara Bank in 1983 they had taken. So it's by a very famous personality called Shri Virendra Hegde. So he is the initiator of that that scheme. So they asked me quite in detail about that, which are the banks involved in the root SETI scheme. So I just told them कि I only know Canara Bank. I know it's a consortium of banks, but the only thing I remember is Canara Bank. So ऐसे हुआ.
Why did I ask you this is because many candidates fear कि अगर नहीं आएगा तो क्या होगा? How can I say no or how can I express that I don't know? So I think what I understand from interacting with you is that it's perfectly okay if you don't know anything. You can politely say that maybe that I have read, sir, but I'm not able to recall. I'll definitely go back and study more on this. I think this is a very standard reply, and there is no need to fear. And I think there is no person who can answer 100% of the questions in an interview. There is no perfect interview as such. और आप जितना आंसर करते जाएंगे वो उतना और डेप्थ में घुसते जाएंगे और डेप्थ में घुसते जाएंगे. सो अल्टीमेटली दे जस्ट नीड टू नो कि आप किस मोमेंट पे आकर आप ब्लॉक हो रहे हैं, देन दे विल गो बैक टू सम अदर टॉपिक. राइट,
बिल्कुल
ठीक है. तो अभिषेक, sorry, Vikram, any other suggestion in terms of while preparing for an interview or while appearing for an interview, Vikram?
So I would suggest, I mean, as far as interview is concerned, I would definitely suggest कि dress code जो होता है, though they have not mentioned any specific dress code, I would suggest कि for this regulatory body or even जो भी officer level के exams है आप देने जा रहे हो interview, it is best to be in a three-piece, because you might be overdressed. कि अगर ब्लेजर टाई सब कुछ पहन के आए हो तो हो सकता है कि you might be overdressed compared to other candidates, but it's better to be overdressed compared to be underdressed, because that at least conveys कि आप serious हो उस interview के बारे में. So this certainly matters a lot.
And I think those people who are taking your interview, they would also be professionally dressed, right?
Yes. So we have to think when they are dressed in a suit and a tie, so you also are expected to do the same.
And you're aspiring to be like them. You're aspiring to be, becoming a NABARD Grade A Officer like them. Maybe many of them who have started from that position. So that's a really nice advice. और काफी लोग ये क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं कि सर कैन आई गो विदाउट टाई और ब्लेजर. Yes, I tell them that maybe it's not necessary, but always if you have an option, go for a blazer and a tie and a good shirt in contrast. So Vikram, it was really nice talking to you, and I know maybe I've taken more than required time of yours, and some people might not be knowing that Vikram is just back from his training before he started giving this interview, so he might be tired also. Well, anyways, Vikram, thank you once again. Any last advice that you would like to give to the future aspirants of SEBI and NABARD both? Because you are a star now, you are a role model for them. And yes, that's the fact. People do listen to you, people will follow your strategy, people will try to execute what you have advised them. So any last advice, Vikram, that you would like to give to the future aspirants of NABARD and SEBI?
So for that, I would just mention the three things that I had mentioned earlier. Consistency and perseverance. This is one thing. Other is to give as many exams as possible. Don't just limit yourself to NABARD. So if you feel that in case in prelims your English is bad or maths is bad, logical reasoning is bad, so write as many mock tests as possible. And also it's even okay to attend clerical exams just to get a hang of it, and just to know that in exam environment how you fare and how you perform in within that constrained environment. So that will help you to manage that stress and also perform better in the exams that actually matter to you, like regulatory body exams, let's say. And other is be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. That is all I would suggest. And at least try completing the whole paper. Basically, in many exams I have seen, for instance, in IBPS PO means, candidates were not able to go through that whole paper only. They were stuck in the first half itself, in a difficult numerical when it comes to maths. So they didn't see that in the second half there was a very easy DI which hardly took 3 or 4 minutes to solve 5 questions. So don't do that, just go through the whole paper. This stands for regulatory body exams also. Don't just get stuck to any one descriptive answer or any one question. You can always come back to that later, but it's important to finish the whole thing. And that's what I would suggest. Ultimately, it's about being true to yourself and being realistic about the exam, that you just have to clear it. You don't have to be a master at the syllabus. That's all.
So that's very well put up. Consistency, experience, and knowledge of your strengths and weaknesses. So I think that is coming from a seasoned player who has not only given but cleared a lot of exams. So thank you, Vikram, for being here and sharing your strategy after a hectic day. And I wish you all the best for your future career in SEBI. It's indeed one of the great organizations. And I know it has places to go. Still, it's a very young
Certainly.
organization. So wish you best of luck and be in touch. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.